Hey guys, Aaron Cybertron Zhang here, and today I'm back with another episode of Road to Rank, where I climb the online Series 7 ladder and provide live commentary as I go. Today we're trying out a team that was built by the world's runner-up from 2019, Hirofumi Kimura. He was actually able to get number 1 on the ladder with this just a couple of days ago. He actually streamed, I think, his entire run, so if you want to check that out, it's in Japanese, link in description below. I've also linked his Twitter and his YouTube down in the description below as well. So, as you can see, it is a hyper-offensive team, and it has a lot of interesting components like Switcheroo Eject Button Whimsicott, Life Orb, Taunt, Spectrier, AV, Cinderace, Sash Mamoswine, and Substitute Nihilego, and Protectless Moltres as well. So, you know, we've actually used, I think, pretty much all of these mons at this point, but they have a lot of interesting combinations together, and I think that, you know, I've really enjoyed playing with hyper offense in Series 7. I think this continues to be like another really strong hyper offensive option. So thanks to Hirofumi for the team, and let's just get into it. My webcam actually currently is broken, so I need to get a new one, so I apologize. That's why there is no webcam today, but I hope you enjoy Pikachu and Eevee as they take my spot. And with Series 8, you know, coming around, we're still a while away from it, but I'm curious what you guys want the next rule set to be. Do you like Series 7? Would you like to see Series 7 modified? Do you want it to stick around, or do you want to use play a completely different format? Let me know in the comments below. So let's get into the first game today. I think that this team, like I've mentioned, we've used a lot of like components of it before, but there definitely are some really interesting aspects to it. Substitute is actually a move that I think is like heavily underplayed in the format, and just was one of the most common moves you'd see back in the day in like 2012 and 2013. And you know, it's a little bit tougher to use, especially because of the interaction with Dynamax, but I think now you guys are Pokemon that can definitely capitalize off it. So, thanks as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show support by leaving a like. I'd really appreciate it, and hope everyone has a good and happy holidays. Okay, this is interesting. Feels like a Gen 1 team. Dragonite, Charizard, Lapras, Zapdos, Nihilego, and Urshifu. So I think our Nihilego is really good here, right? Especially because they can capitalize with the substitute. So I think, because we'll definitely be able to outspeed the opponent, which I think is really good. The question is who to Dynamax here. Like, I think Cinderace and Spectrier are both pretty viable options. Cinderace actually looks really good here, especially because it's Assault Vested and I can change my type. So even though Zapdos and, you know, Lapras are normally threats, they're less so when we bring out when we can change our typing. Moltres as the last one. What about Spectre as the last one? That doesn't feel super good with my opponent having Urshifu, right? I guess I could Dynamax Spectre as well, but I don't know. Cinderace seems kind of tempting here. I think I'll bring Mamoswine, actually. Given the number of flying types that they have, it has pretty good coverage across the board, and with the Focus Sash, you can also survive. So, yeah. Let's get into the first game today. I think, you know, we've definitely used a bunch of different styles of teams throughout Series 7, but Hyper Offense has definitely been one of the most common archetypes, and for good reason. It is just really consistent, especially in Best of 1 when you're playing on the ladder. Okay, so it's going to be Zapdos and Urshifu. Obviously great for Nihilego. This is where Substitute's really interesting. I also could easily just double up onto the Urshifu right now. Like, I could just go Dazzling Gleam and Sludge Bomb. Scarf Urshifu could be a potential problem here. I don't know. I mean, it's obviously so tempting to Meteor Beam. Substitute's kind of cool here as well, but I think I'm down to just Sludge Bomb and Dazzle turn 1. And if they like Dynamax Zapdos and attack, like, power to them. Okay, it looks like they are going to commit the max. So I also could have gone like Switcheroo onto Zapdos, and Meteor Beam could have been interesting. But Max Zapdos is not super scary right now, I think. Yeah, I was expecting maybe a Protect or a Switch out there. We'll see if we can just knock out Urshifu. That would be super nice. Okay, they don't Protect, which is good. Doesn't look like they are Choice Scarfed, and that's actually not Sash. Interesting. Wow. So I could have gone Meteor Beam onto that slot, but I wanted to obviously conserve it against the Zapdos. We'll get some chip damage with Sludge Bomb. More than chip, honestly, and they're going to launch an Airstream into Whimsicott. Okay. So, like, that was okay. I would say could have gone a little bit better, but at the same time, Nihilego's actually a really good wall into Zapdos. So much to the point where we could actually consider Dynamaxing it. And I have Mamoswine in the back as well, so I think we just bring that out right now, because I don't want Cinderace to take any damage, and I want to scout out for what my opponent has in the back. Like I said, I could have doubled up onto Zapdos turn 1, Switcheroo Sludge Bomb, but Zapdos protecting there would obviously be really bad. And they're going to bring out Dragonite. Okay. Well, Mamoswine and Nihilego obviously both look pretty good here, but my fear is potential... What are the items here, right? You could obviously just try to double up onto, like, Mamo right now. I'm wondering if there's Earthquake from Dragonite. If not, I feel like Nihilego completely walls my opponent. And honestly, I might just Dynamax the Mamoswine here, because it doesn't take that much damage. And I guess you could max Flare me. That's kind of scary. Okay, I'm going to go Ice Shard, Dynamax, and actually Rockfall into Zapdos, because I think Dynamax Nihilego is actually looking really good right now. And they switch out Dragonite, which is okay by me, because this means I'm definitely surviving the turn. I get some chip damage, and it's their Nihilego in the back, okay? So, like, I think our Nihilego's in a really good place right now, because I can just cleanly knock out the Zapdos. Dragonite's not really a big threat to it. I have Cinderace in the back. I guess the problem is that you could probably give a speed boost onto the opposing Nihilego, which could be a slight problem. But I don't know if I'm that worried about it. I think if you're Zapdos, you want to either Airstream Mamoswine or Heat Wave here, right? Also curious on the item on the Dragonite there, but Ice Shard actually does considerable damage. Yeah, they're going to go for Flare. This is why I didn't want to Dynamax the Mamo, because it still takes so much damage from a Flare. And then we get a Rockfall and return into the Zapdos, which should do really good damage. Also sets up the Sandstorm, so we get a little bit more chip. And then the Sand helps against Dragonite. Is it Charty Berry? No way. Okay, I didn't see that coming. That is not very common on Zapdos. Like, Life Orb is by far the most common item, but I guess as soon as we see that it doesn't have Life Orb, gotta start wondering what the item could be. So, let's see. They're running out of Tailwind here. They did not get a Speed Boost onto Nihilego, which is actually kind of a big deal. Ice Shard should KO Zapdos, but Zapdos could obviously just protect here as you attack with the Nihilego. We have Cinderace in the back, no Prio on that. But Cinderace should outspeed what my opponent has in the back if I deny a speed boost. Yeah, it's max speed here. It's like the safest play here really is to Ice Shard Zapdos. It's just like a super obvious play, so obviously I could protect here. Because like if you're my opponent, I think you want to just protect Zapdos, try to target down my Nihilego, but I could see them reading into it and going one step ahead. I don't think a Rockfall KOs here anyway, so I'm down for a max Ooze onto the Nihilego actually. Yeah, okay, as long as I deny the Cinderace a speed... Or sorry, I deny the Nihilego a speed boost, then this is fine. Yeah, and they don't go for Protect, which is great. Oh, it survives, though. That's kind of unfortunate. Okay. That's not an ideal survival. I'm actually impressed Zapdos was able to hang on there, because if we get the knockout there, it should be just game over, because Cinderace can just come out and then outspeed both of my opponent's Mons. But it's still looking okay, I think, because my opponent's not pressuring my Nihilego with much damage. They're going to go for Meteor Beam here. But that means you just use your strongest attack, right? And the only problem is my Cinderace might just get one shot by Sludge Bomb. We are Assault Vested, though. So, let's see. Oh, that does nothing to us, though. Okay, nice. Yeah, I wanted the Ooze here just so that I get one really powerful move off against the Dragonite, because Rockfall isn't going to do anything there anyway, right? I mean, it's definitely not going to KO them, so might as well get that boost so that I can just guarantee knocking out the Dragonite in this endgame. So Mamoswine was really good for us here in the end. I was surprised to see Zapdos max. The Urshifu not being sashed made things easier as well. So we can bring out Cinderace now. Question is whether or not a plus Cinderace with AV can take like a +1 Sludge Bomb. Unless Nihilego actually has another rock type attack, because like most of the sets with Meteor Beam only run Meteor Beam as your attack, but of course you could run like Power Gem as well as Meteor Beam. So I'm just gonna Iron Head here. No other play to really go for, and Rockfall onto the Dragonite, because we'll have a +1 Meteor Beam into the Nihilego, or +2 Meteor Beam after this turn. I just want to knock out Dragonite because I know we outspeed that right now, unless they're Scarped, which I think is unlikely. No, they're just opting for another Meteor Beam. Okay, well, that means we should win here then, because, yeah, you get these special attack boosts, but you don't get to attack. So I just KO you with Iron Head. Nice. This was an interesting game of, like, flexible Dynamaxes, because, like, I don't think you actually want to Dynamax with Nihilego most of the time with this team. Obviously, like, Moltres is a really good candidate, as well as Spectrier, but given our opponent's, like, weakness to Rock, Nihilego is really good here. Nice. And that just cleanly one-shots. So that is the power of Nihilego, even without any boosts. And I think the main thing that we were able to capitalize off here is, like, by baiting Zapdos into Dynamaxing, like, sure, it's strong in the early game, but then it really falls up against Nihilego. And this is an example of how, like, if you can get your opponent to Dynamax first, but then you have a Dynamax Pokemon that counters that really well, that Pokemon's going to struggle a little bit later on in the match. So I'm curious about the team. It was Weakness Policy Dragonite. That's pretty cool. Life Orb, Charizard, AV, Lapras, Chardy Zapdos, which, like I said, I was kind of surprised by since Life Orb is so common. Power Herb. Yeah, I think the best play they could have probably gone for in that endgame was Sludge Wave. And then they were Muscle Band Urshifu. Interesting. So the lack of Protects, I think, definitely helped us a little bit here as well, make things easier. But not bad. Alright, let's see what we get in the next one. Otherwise, I'm thinking about that, like, I don't know, Moltres never feels super good. Anytime I see a Zapdos in team preview, like, I'm a little bit hesitant to bring Moltres. I think Spectre could have been interesting there, but it was the Lapras that was really scary, and I was like, Nihilego's, one of the better answers into Lapras. Okay, we have Whimsicott here. Eject Stuff's kind of interesting, but there are 2 dark types, so obviously I can't Prankster onto those. It's something that you always have to remember when using this. I don't think Spectre or Max feels super good into a Moltres. Actually, now you go offensively here is really good, right? Like, hits most of my opponent's team for good damage. I like Mamoswine a lot once again. Rotom-Heat's actually the problem here, I think. But that's where Nihilego can come in. The problem is the double Fake Out here, right? Which means I can't lead Whimsicott super easily. It does have Helping Hand, though, so I guess actually if I lead Whimsicott plus something, you lead Fake Out plus something, I could just go Helping Hand, get a really powerful attack off, and a free switch in, because you would eject the Whimsicott out. If I'm my opponent, though, what am I leading here? I think, like, you want to consider leading Nihilego punishes anything but a Landorus lead, so let's start with that. And then what do I not want to see if they have a Landorus? I guess Mamoswine. So maybe I don't lead Whimsicott because of the prevalence of Fake Out. And then in the back, I don't know. Spectre is kind of interesting here as a Cinderace. I don't think it's Moltres because of the opponent's Rotom-Heat. I don't know if I need Tailwind is the thing here because our Pokemon are actually already just faster than theirs. So maybe we just go quadruple offense here and not bring Whimsicott. I don't know if that's the right approach here, but I think it could work. Because the idea is to just exert so much offensive pressure, and if they had stuff that was like in our speed tier, if not faster, I'd be more compelled to bring Tailwind. But the thing is, like, we actually should outspeed most of their mons with Cinderace, Spectre, and Nihilego. So that just gives me one more, like, really strong attacker, right? Okay, they go Grimmsnarl on Rotom. That is more than okay with me, because I think the Nihilego's looking really good here. The only question is whether I consider maxing Nihilego. Which I definitely would not have anticipated, like, 2 matches in a row. If you're my opponent, you could, like, protect turn 1, or not even protect, actually. You could just straight trick Incense. Okay, if I max Nihilego, what's the problem? Landorus? Landorus actually is not that much of an issue considering that we have the Mamoswine. I don't see the Rotom staying... I see it protecting turn 1. Like, if I'm my opponent, I could see protect Rotom, trick full Incense onto the Nihilego. I don't know, like, I really want to just max here. Yeah, I think I will just max, go for a Rockfall, and an Icicle Crash. Because Mamoswine, one of the nice things about the Nihilego is that it covers Mamoswine really, really well. Or sorry, Mamoswine covers Nihilego really well, right? Like, Landorus is probably one of the worst things for Nihilego to go up against. Honestly, yeah, would not have expected Dynamaxing Nihilego twice, but once again, I feel like Nihilego looks really good into my opponent's team comp. So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Protect here turn 1, but I feel like we were putting on more offensive pressure, so I don't mind this too much. Ooh, they go for a Light Screen. Okay. Is that enough to survive a Max Rockfall? Maybe. Either way, it's not that bad though, right? We get a lot of damage off turn 1. Did that still one hit KO? It looked like it. If so, that's absolutely huge because I get a Beast Boost as well, and I get the Sand Up and free damage onto Grimmsnarl. Yeah, it was a one hit KO. Nice. Okay. So Dynamax Nihilego is really moving right now, and I think that's one of the nice things about like a lot of these hyper offensive teams. You have so much flexibility in who you can Dynamax, and so that makes it harder for your opponent to like accurately call who they should be covering for. So, like, the only thing that Nihilego was scared of from my opponent's team was that Landorus, but I have Mamoswine, which obviously deals with Landorus incredibly well. So, Now he goes kind of just moving right now. Yeah, and they bring out Landorus. Okay. We have the Sash, so honestly, like I feel like the safest play here is really to just protect an Icicle Crash into Landorus. Like, I think that honestly works out really, really well. Yeah, because I don't want to get full... Oh, actually, even if you're full Incense, it won't apply this turn immediately, right? But I have the Sash. The Sash just makes this so safe, I feel like, for us. What could they have in the back? Because, like, are you forced to Dynamax Landorus? Oh, you know what you could do? You could max Landorus and Airstream, which is the problem here. Okay, I'm actually just going to double up on a Landorus because Grimmsnarl is not an offensive threat. I don't know if I KO with just Icicle Crash, if it's Dynamaxed. Yeah, and they're going to max it. So, yeah, the reason why I ended up just going for the double up here is because if I protect now you go and you max Airstream into the Mamoswine, well, I guess Icicle Crash into Ice Shard probably KOs Landorus anyway, so we probably could have played a little bit more defensively there. Especially because we have that Focus Sash on Mamoswine. But they also might read into now you go protect and not max Quake into that slot. Even if they max Quake, it's fine. And it looks like they're actually going to attack with the Grimmsnarl, so I suspect it might be a double up onto the Mamoswine slot. But we should KO Landorus with that. Yep. Okay, they're going to Quake, so they didn't go for Airstream. It is going to be Quake into Mamoswine, though. Nice. Okay. Yeah. So now you go sticks around for a little bit longer. I mean, if we outspeed the Grimmsnarl here, which we should, I think we should just win if we KO Landorus. Nice. Icicle Crash connects. Beautiful. You can see how anti-meta now you go plus Mamoswine is, right? Like 2 matches in a row, just like matched up so well into our opponent's team compositions. And they're going to Spirit Break? Yeah. Yeah. So they read into now we go protecting, which honestly was also a safe play, right? Even if I max guard Icicle Crash there, the only concern is if Icicle Crash doesn't KO. Plus, I think max Airstream might have been a slightly better play for my opponent, so that you could outspeed now you go this subsequent turn. Let's see. They set up Light Screen, so we have Taunt Spectrier. I don't know who's better to bring between Cinderace and Spectrier first. I think probably Spectrier, so they don't get baited into clicking Reflect. But at this point, I think it should just be game over because like we still have our Dynamax and just yeah, they have Fini in the back. So by bringing out Spectrier, what I can do now is just taunt Fini, max Ooze into the Grimmsnarl, and then just Sludge Bomb. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe Whimsicott could have been better. Like, I just really like Dynamaxing now you go in both of the last matches because, like, once again, if you look at my opponent's team, there's nothing to really threaten it other than one specific Pokemon. And that one specific Pokemon, Landorus, is threatened immensely by the, let's just taunt here. Threatened immensely by the Mamoswine that we have with this team. Yeah, so, nice. Dynamax now Ego takes another win here for us. Which, once again, like, when I haven't played any games with this team yet, but when I saw it, I was like, yeah, I would think the Maxmons normally would be the Spectre and the Cinderace, and I'm sure that is the case, as well as Moltres, actually, but I don't know. It's really important to just pick Mons that you think match up best against your opponent, right? And in this case, like, there was nothing on my opponent's team for Now Ego. The only thing really was the Landorus here, but once again, that's why Mamoswine's such a nice partner with the Now Ego. But I think these matches, like, we just had really favorable matchups, and it was honestly kind of tough for our opponents to really do very much because this is why it's really important to have, like, not only one good answer against, like, the popular picks in the meta, but ideally, like, multiple good answers, right? Because in that one, it's like my opponent's answer against Now Ego is pretty much the Landorus, and in a vacuum that works, but Now Ego's often going to have partners like Mamoswine that can cover for that. This seems interesting. They have Scizor and Excadrill. Zapdos, Fini, Whimsicott, and Incineroar. Okay, so they have their own Tailwind. That could definitely be a big problem for us here. I think Now Ego's going to be a little bit worse here, especially because of the Excadrill, which I actually think is definitely a possible Dynamax option for my opponent's end. I think Switcheroo stuff here could be kind of cheesy, but could really work out well. AV Cinderace is looking tempting as well, I have to say. It's actually looking really tempting here. I don't know. I think Zapdos is likely to max on my opponent's team, kind of like before. But, like, Whimsicott plus Cinderace or Spectre here, actually, is also interesting. Because, like, Spectre just does so much damage, and it also outspeeds my opponent's team already. They only have one Ghost Resist, which is Incin, but then we can just Quake that. Okay, I'm actually going to try Spectre. So Whimsicott, Spectre. And I think Mamo now Ego in the back. If you're my opponent, would you bring Scizor into this, actually? Because if so, maybe Cinderace is better over one of the two I just mentioned. Yeah, I'll bring Cinderace. I'm leaning towards now Ego just because, like, I'm scared of Zapdos and Fini. Yeah, I'll go for that. I think Mamoswine may have been correct here, but I don't know. I think in this game, when you have Tailwind against Tailwind, it helps if you have faster Mons, right? Because it means if you match Tailwinds, the faster Mon will still go first. And in this case, we have Spectre, which I think heavily favors us. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go with that. But I think like Cinderace definitely could have been decent as well. They go Whimsicott Excadrill. Okay. Whimsicott Cinderace could have been okay here. But I don't mind this too much. The main thing is, though, can I cheese the Excadrill here? They're Mold Breaker. Interesting. Because I have Switcheroo. If you're my opponent, like, maybe you just Tailwind Steel Spike. I mean, if we match Tailwinds, that's fine for us, right? Because I can Dynamax Spectre. Unless they're also Eject Button, which I guess could be a possibility. I'm down to just Tailwind, actually, and Phantasm turn 1 into Excadrill. Because I don't like the idea of tricking into Excadrill should Excadrill max. Should my opponent go Tailwind Steel Spike and I go Switcheroo, I get rid of their max, but I lose Whimsicott, which means I don't have Tailwind up for the remainder of the game. And that means my opponent's hyper-offensive team can basically outpace us in terms of speed. And since we don't really have Protect on, like, Cinderace, for example, it's even harder to stall out the Tailwinds. So I'd rather just ensure that the Tailwinds are matched. Oh, interesting. They taunted... Huh. Oh, I see. They were probably expecting, like, Support Spectre, and they didn't want to get hit by a Will-O-Wisp, which would make a lot of sense. But if this just one-shots, like, I think my opponent's honestly kind of doomed. That does one-shot. Okay. This is the scariest thing about playing against Spectre in Best of 1. You never know if it's going to be support-oriented with Focus Sash and Will-O-Wisp, or just hyper-offense with Life Orb Max Phantasm. Actually, of course, like, regular support Spectres can Dynamax as well, but, like, typically on the support sets, you'll run, like, Will-O-Wisp and Snarl, and then on the offensive sets, you'll run a moveset like this, sometimes Protect over Taunt, but yeah. I mean, that puts us in such a good position because we can still Switcheroo too. I can even just Helping Hand Phantasm here. Switcheroo's kind of useless, actually. I don't see what my opponent's going to do here. I think Scizor might, like, Protect here, but I don't think I really care because even if it does, I'll just KO it next turn. And the Spectre, like, Snowball is just really rolling right now, right? Like, my opponent just doesn't have much damage for it. I guess if Excadrill wasn't protecting turn 1, it was either going for a Swords Dance or an Iron Head. Both of those are pretty viable plays. But I feel like Swords Dance in front of a Spectre is really risky. But my opponent might have just wanted to go all in on turn 1, say, okay, you're going to try to Will-O-Wisp me, I'm just going to taunt you, prevent the Will-O-Wisp, and then Swords Dance and then sweep. But, I don't know. That worked out really well for us, obviously, so I'm not complaining. And they actually go for Encore, which is interesting. Also, like, if Taunt went into my Whimsicott, because we ended up losing the Speed Tie, and I didn't get Tailwind up, this would be a little bit tougher because then my opponent could just set up Tailwind this subsequent turn. But yeah, Spectre after the Life Orb and the boost and the Helping Hand just one-shot Scizor. So it's really not much my opponent can do. And this is just kind of the offensive pressure that Spectre can pose, right? Like, and once again, like, we've lost to it a bunch on Road to Ranked, and it's like a lot of teams just don't have great resist to it. It's crazy because Spectre, you know, if you're not Dynamaxing it, its offensive move pool is really limited, but once you turn, like, Mudshot and Hyper Beam into max moves, it actually still just has such good coverage across the board. So, we're Taunted, doesn't really matter. We're Encored, also doesn't really matter. I'm just going to Helping Hand Phantasm one more time. I guess Zapdos here maybe protects, but yeah. The Hyper Offense train just keeps rolling through right now. So, not bad. Yeah, I think, like, this is... In any time you and your opponent have, like, the same means of speed control, like, you typically want to ask yourself, like, okay, assuming we both get our speed control up, is there anything I have, like, can outspeed my opponent? If so, that, like, is typically a decent Pokemon to bring in, because then you know that should you match the speed control, which you typically want to, I guess that's kind of a generic prompt, because Trick Room is obviously a little bit different, but, you know, Tailwind against Tailwind, like, both Tailwind teams like will really fall off if like the opposing team outspeeds them. So it's like really critical that you at least match the Tailwind. And then if you have stuff that's faster, like we did here, gives you such a big advantage in terms of just like pure numbers, right? Like you'll be attacking first, and normally a Tailwind team sets up Tailwind to outspeed their opponent. But if you're matching Tailwinds and you're going first, it's really, really tough for the opponent. This next team's really interesting. Rillaboom, T-Tar, Fini, Tornadus, Metagross, and now you go. So obviously they have Tailwind once again. This is just as I was saying, you want to match the Tailwinds. But Whimsicott lead here could be awkward if they go Rillaboom plus the Tornadus, which I think is decently unlikely. Tornadus Metagross is always a lead you have to respect as well, because of course it can just go for Brutal Swing. Which is where like Switcheroo Whimsicott could be really interesting here, because it would just punish Tornadus Metagross super hard. I was going to say considering Moltres, but then they have Fini, Tyranitar, and now Egos. None of those are really that great to go up against. Spectre is pretty interesting here. That might lead them to lead T-Tar, though. So actually, I think like maybe we try to bait them and then actually max Cinderace. Like, even just playing with regular Spectre is kind of a cool option here, I think. Now Egos also kind of crushes like the top half. I'm going to try Whimsicott Spectre with the plan to actually Dynamax Cinderace, but playing flexible enough where I might just Dynamax the Spectre as well. Like, so playing it by ear a little bit here. Once again, I think, like, while it's good to have game plans going into matches, you never want to just, like, hard commit to Dynamaxing something unless, like, you're confident. And normally, it's hard to be confident unless, like, the game has progressed a little bit. So, keep your options of who you want to Dynamax open, and always think, how can you basically extract the most value out of that Dynamax? They go Tornadus and Tyranitar, okay. Huh, this is interesting. Like, I think it's fine, because we can both set up Tailwind, and then I can just Dynamax Cinderace. This is what I mean, right? This becomes really interesting should my opponent get baited into Dynamaxing Tyranitar in front of Spectre. Because, like, I think we can definitely Tailwind right now. We definitely want a Tailwind just to match Tailwinds, and I'm honestly contentious going for a Shadow Ball onto the Tornadus. Like, trading Spectre for Tornadus while we both get Tailwind up is totally worth it, because then I get Cinderace out. Cinderace just demolishes Tyranitar. Now, I think if you're my opponent, you might want to consider not maxing, because, like, what mileage do you get out of maxing Tyranitar? Probably not very much. You could also just, you can just go for a regular Crunch, but they do exactly what I wanted them to do, which is actually committed Dynamax immediately. This is exactly like that Zapdos game that we had, where, once again, we get them to max first, and while it looks good on the first turn, we just bring out something that directly counters that Pokemon. And now, actually, Dynamax Cinderace looks incredible against what my opponents brought. I'm really curious on the item on Tyranitar here, though, because I would think weakness policies on Metagross, given that you're next Tornadus, but sometimes you can use that as bait, right? Oh, interesting. They're not even Tailwinding here. Huh. But they're bulky enough to survive that Shadow Ball with good enough health. So maybe just Hurricane. Ooh, Icy Wind, actually. Okay. Icy Wind. What do I want to switch out into? I think probably Mamoswine, right? Better to go out into Mamoswine here because I'm Sash. Eject Button switches us out, but that's honestly fine because I'm never going to switch Switcheroo onto the Tyranitar here. So we go out into Mamoswine, and then I think we can max Cinderace. Yeah. Icy Wind ended up being a pretty good option here. I'm curious if they max Darkness. Yeah, which makes me think it's going into Spectre. Yep. Perfect. So it's like my opponent Dynamax Tyranitar for what? A KO on Spectre and a special defense drop? Well, they would have KO'd Spectre anyway, even if they had stayed for regular Crunch. But of course, the reason they considered maxing there was one, to cover for either us using Will-O-Wisp, or two, to cover for us Dynamaxing. Because I don't know if Crunch would KO us otherwise. But this is like really good for us now. Because I bring in Cinderace, I can just go Ice Shard onto Tornadus, Dynamax Cinderace. Once again, my only hesitance here is not knowing the item on T-Char right now. I think it's safe to Ice Shard into Tornadus here. I think it's fine to Knuckle. Like, even if your weakness policy, maybe Steel Spike is better. But then they might max Darkness us, and Fighting resists both Rock and Dark. Yeah, I'll just max Knuckle. It also gives Mamoswine an attack boost, which is kind of nice in this position. Okay. Yeah, I think this is looking pretty good right now. The only, like, my only fear, once again, is if Tyranitar's weakness policy, which honestly feels decently likely, especially because we haven't seen another item from it. If you're Dynamaxing it, I think being Choice is less likely. Life Orb. Lung could be an explanation here. Main thing, though, is that my opponent does, instead of Tailwind, and T-Tar, I don't think should one-shot either of our mons here. Even if you are at +2, like, a +2 Rockfall or +2 Max Darkness won't KO Cinderace. I don't know. Steel Spike may have been a little bit better there, but I could also see my opponent just targeting Mamoswine instead of the Cinderace. Wow, that almost one-shot, actually. Oh my goodness. I wonder if the play was to actually just go for High Jump Kick them, but if I miss, that's like a disaster for us. Ah, they're not policy though. Okay, perfect. Yeah, like I said, I was guessing that the policy was going to be on the Tornadus. Sorry, not the Metagross there, but I was not 100% confident just because, like, I don't know. Like I said, you could use that as bait and, for example, run AV Metagross and your opponents think, like, oh, the weakness policy is going to be on the Metagross. So, you know, I can just safely attack into Tyranitar, and then Tyranitar ends up, like, surprising you. But in this position, even if it were weakness policy, like, there's nothing a Tyranitar can do to KO us, right? Which is the main thing. Rillaboom comes out, which is more than fine. We just protect Mamoswine here, knock out Rillaboom, and then game should be over. So, once again, this is the beauty of trying to get your opponent to Dynamax before you. Obviously, you need to have the right counters to it in the back, but if you do, it can pay off huge. Yeah, I don't really think I care about Tyranitar here, right? I guess they could Rockfall into us. Like, it's probably better to protect here and knuckle into T-Tar. Actually, wait, how many turns of Tailwind are left? We should have 2. Safest play is really protect Knuckle here into T-Tar. Or I could protect Knuckle. I mean, I'm down to just knock out Tyranitar. I think we're far ahead enough in this game where... yeah, like, even if we... What's the worst case here? I guess they Max Guard T-Tar... Bandit Glide into Cinderace, but they're going to target Mamo. Okay, nice. Yeah. I feel like for the most part, these games have been pretty autopilot because of how good our team has matched up against our opponents. Like, these games were really hard for our opponent after turns 1 and 2, honestly, because we often... Like, the thing with Pokemon like Spectre or Cinderace is that they can snowball games really, really quickly, right? Especially because they're constantly boosting themselves as well. And so if you can, like, the Dynamax Pokemon on the opposing end is typically what is going to stop you a little bit. So that's the main thing you want to cover for. But yeah, now we still have one more max turn. Cinderace is at +2 as his Mammal, can one-shot everything. Ice Shard, honestly, I wonder if just KOs Rillaboom here at +2 attack. Okay, let's see what comes out. It's going to be Fini, yep. Which is okay. This one could have been a bit trickier, but I think, like, based off what my opponent brought, they were kind of hard-locked into maxing Tyranitar. Rillaboom doesn't do well at all. Fini doesn't do well at all, so I don't blame them for maxing T-Tar at all. Okay, what do we have in the back? Just a Whimsicott. Mammal's pretty low, but yeah, we can just Ice Shard into Rillaboom here. And, I don't know if +2 Airstream KOs Fini. I would think Fini protects here. I'm down to just double up on her Rillaboom. Yeah, Fini shouldn't be able to deal with AV Cinderace at all in this position. Okay, actually, I guess that play was not exactly the best because Rillaboom may have protected there. And actually, yeah, Ice Shard does not do enough to pick up the knockout. But turns out they're not going for Glide here, which is interesting. Oh, they're Koba. Huh, that's interesting. Yeah, the reason why I actually don't like the double up there is because I should just cover my bases, given how much damage I have across the board at this point. I think just Ice Shard Rillaboom, Airstream Fini is fine there. Probably don't KO either, but it doesn't matter because I do enough damage where I think I can just finish the game off with Whimsicott. Because if Rillaboom protects there, and I mean, I still get the Airstream off, I guess, which is pretty good, but I don't know. I feel like it may have been a little bit better to split my damage there. They do get an accuracy drop, and actually that could make this scary. Because I could lose off just like a billion misses right now. Right, so let's see. They are lefties, which I guess I'd rather see, because Fini shouldn't last on the field for more than like 2 turns at this point. We have Whimsicott. I can even take away the lefties with Switcheroo. I actually think the most consistent play is just to click Dazzling Gleam, though, because like Fini shouldn't be able to knock us out right now. So let's just split our damage. yeah, we can click Dazzle, and it's probably just Iron Head here. Don't want to change our typing, and like the other attacks are more inaccurate as well. And because we're Assault Vest, like I think we can take at least 2 Muddy Waters right now anyways. So even if we miss a couple, it's not the end of the world, but this one connects, which is good. Oh, yeah, this might just be a KO actually after Sand. Ooh, so close. So close. But now it's obviously just one Dazzling Gleam away, so I don't have to worry about a miss or anything. Another accuracy drop, though. Sandstorm is gone as well, so we do need to hit one more attack to actually win this one. I was going to say, like, stealing the lefties could be fun. Actually, does Switcheroo have accuracy, or is it always guaranteed to hit? Oh, no, it is. It could miss, so yeah, I'll just Iron Head and Dazzle here. Bounce could be also interesting just to make it so that my opponent has to go for like consecutive Muddy Waters. Because then the Muddy Water damage is split, so you don't KO Whimsicott, but yeah, we end up winning there. And once again, this was mainly off the fact that like Cinderace just kind of crushes Tyranitar, so not much my opponent could have done after turn 1 because of how hard Cinderace counters Tyranitar. So I think if there's one lesson you can learn from this episode, it's the idea of like trying to bait your opponent into Dynamaxing one Pokemon and then having Pokemon that counter that Dynamaxmon really well, so that they effectively only get like one really strong turn off, and then after that one turn, the next 2 turns like they're playing super defensively or they just can't do very much. So yeah, that was a fun set of games though. Thank you guys so much as always for watching. If you enjoyed, please show support by leaving a like. Thank you to Hirofumi for the team. He is once again the World's runner-up from 2019 as well as the Japanese national champion from that year. Give him a follow. He's a great player and has a YouTube channel. And yeah, happy holidays to everyone watching. I hope everyone stays safe, healthy, and I'll catch you all next time. All right, peace.